And I think that becomes a real danger within our society today because trauma has become such a buzzword and
Mhm.
because we have such a it's just an everyday conversation.
Yeah.
We get into this framework and this narrative of like, okay, I should be feeling more trauma than actually feeling good. Why do you think we find more comfort in feeling bad than feeling good?
Oh, I wish I had an answer to that. There's a certain secondary gain to it. I think when we have a reason for who we are, that everybody has problems. Everybody has. I mean this truthfully. All of us have flaws and limitations. We're imperfect by design. I'm sorry, not by design, but we're imperfect as human beings. We're not yet fully cooked. We've only been on the planet in terms of the history of our, the time span of the universe and our planet, a flash, so we've come a long way. We have a long way to go, hopefully, but we're still very flawed creatures. And then part of it is because we are, in a sense, still growing and learning, and we are flexible. So since all of us have flaws, which are sometimes difficult to own, difficult to accept, I think it's very convenient to say, well, I have this disorder. This is what happened to me. It happened to me, or I have this thing. It's not my fault. It's genetic, or So I've noticed this, that there's been an increasing tendency in the last decade for people to almost cling to diagnoses, which I've initially found very odd, and I think began to realize it probably because one of the main reasons, because it's an explanatory model. It's why I have these flaws, which may be comforting in the short term. I think in the long run, though, it's very maladaptive, because then we don't do anything to try to enhance ourselves. We stop trying to grow if we limit ourselves by a disorder. If we say, I'm traumatized, I can't do anything about that, or I have ADHD, or I'm manic depressive. And none of these disorders were ever meant to be life sentences. They're descriptive. They're meant to describe what somebody's experiencing at the moment. But particularly in the US, we have a tendency to do this, I think. Even intelligence, the intelligence test came from France. Alfred Binet, started measuring intelligence, and his goal in doing that in the 19th century, mid 19th century, his goal in doing that was to help kids in school by defining where they were at that moment, and where they might be best placed in schools. When that was imported to the US at the early 20th century, it immediately became a genetic kind of permanent level of intelligence. People were defined as having a level of intelligence, and we translated it from a temporary state to a defining characteristic of who you are. If you had a low intelligence at this point, that's it. That's what you've got to work with, which is a completely literally foreign to the way the idea was first conceived. So we have a tendency that I'm not sure why we have that tendency, for the reasons we just talked about, but that seems to be a characteristic we could do without, I think.